If you feel like you're dealing with lymphatic drainage issues, this can be a really important thing to correct. This lymph fluid kind of helps us carry out a lot of our metabolic waste and dead bacteria and things that just need to be removed from the body. And it kind of carries those to our liver and to our kidneys so that they can hit that exit and get out of the body. So if this isn't working correctly for you, you really want to take steps to improve this. And I got a great question from Gina. So in this video, I'm going to cover 3 steps that you can take to really maximize your ability to get that lymph drainage working correctly. And I'm even going to give you a bonus 4th step that'll only apply to some people, but for the people that it applies to, it can be life altering. Now, if you've been researching this, you've probably found a lot of information like on lymphatic massages, and these can be great. These can really help things kind of get going as you're starting to work on some of these underlying causes that need to be corrected. And there's even some self-massage techniques that you can find out there, and there's places you can massage like, on your neck and in your armpits and in your groin. And I don't want you to misunderstand what I'm saying. And honey, he said I need to massage my groin. That's not really what I'm saying. I'm just okay with these techniques. I just don't view them as the solution. So I like to look more at the underlying causes that can create trouble. So the first step that I like to see a client take is to make sure that hydration is right. When we don't drink enough actual water, a lot of the fluids in the body will become more concentrated. And when they're more concentrated, they don't flow the way that they're supposed to. So a lot of people are like, oh, well, I had some water when I brushed my teeth. We want to actually drink water, and actual water. Our coffee, it's got water in it. No, we want to drink water. The body needs water for a lot of functions, and it needs it to keep everything moving correctly. So when these fluids become more concentrated, they can become more stagnant and not flow the way that they're supposed to. Now, what I don't want a person to do is just start chugging gallons of water. Like if a person's blood pressure reading is lower, like that systolic number or the top number is below 112, that can be a sign of a lack of minerals in the system. So if they just start chugging water, they're actually going to wash a lot of those minerals out, which can really magnify a lot of symptoms. So if someone has low blood pressure, they may need to take steps to lift the minerals in this system before they qualify to drink more water. And we'll have a link in the description below for our video on how to lift mineral levels if you feel like that might be a problem for you. But if a person has like high blood pressure or their blood pressure is okay, increasing water intake to help this lymphatic system work correctly can be a really great step. And step number 2 is about movement. And when you hear people talk about this, they're going to say, well, the lymphatic system doesn't have a pump like the heart. The heart pumps our blood through the body, but the lymphatic system doesn't have a pump, so we have to move to get it moving. And that's sorta kinda true. I'm gonna share a link in the description below to this paper on the health of the lymphatic system relies on mobility, and it kind of talks about how there's intrinsic and extrinsic pumps for this lymphatic system, but they don't just pump automatically like the heart does, but they still help pump everything through the system. They just rely on muscle contraction and movement and even breathing. So when we're breathing, our diaphragm is moving up and down, and that has the ability to help move some of these systems through. But this paper also talked about some systems in the calf and the foot that can kind of help move everything along when these are in action. And a lot of people will tell you about this NASA study from the 80s about rebounding and how it's like 68% more efficient than running at helping get this lymphatic fluid moving. And a lot of people have debunked some things about this study since, and there's a lot of arguments about it. I don't really care so much. I really like rebounding. I think that type of movement is great for a lot of people, especially like a low impact type cardio movement. But that type of movement, whether you're running, walking, or doing some type of rebounding, can be really beneficial in getting these fluids moving a little bit more. And I don't view this as the solution if it's the only step a person is going to take, but if they're doing this along with some of these other steps, it can really be helpful. Even just deep breathing, getting that diaphragm going can be beneficial for some people. Now, if you're going to do the rebounding, just know that like if you're experienced, or I don't know, I don't think you're allowed to call people old anymore. I don't even know. Like if your number is high and you're fragile, they have rebounders that come with like these handles on them that you just kind of hold on to so you can bounce real gently and you can at least get that body in motion a little bit. And for some people, that's a lot less impact than actually walking would be. So I'm a fan. I use this a lot. I'll put a link in the description below to the one that I use, but I don't feel like you need to use that one. I know you're going to ask. But I feel like any type of movement can be very important, and I feel like rebounding might be a little bit more beneficial, but not enough that makes you feel like you have to buy a rebounder to fix your lymph situation. And step number 3 is to make sure that other detox pathways are working correctly, and it's very common today for them not to be working correctly. So when excess toxins or cellular waste start to accumulate, they can kind of clog or restrict the movement of that lymphatic system. So remember that when the lymph takes all this junk out of the body, it sends it to the liver and the kidneys. And when it sends it to the liver filters out a lot of our junk, but it puts a lot of that junk into our bile, which is this soapy substance that it makes and sends down to be stored in the gallbladder. And then when we eat food and the gallbladder squirts this bile down to help us emulsify our dietary fats and digest our food correctly, then it carries those toxins with it through the digestive tract, so those toxins can go out the back door when we poop like a champion. But for a lot of people, that bile can become too thick and sticky to flow correctly for a wide variety of reasons, and then those toxins aren't going out the back door. And those toxins can get reassimilated and start to accumulate in the system, and now this higher level of toxins is going to restrict the flow of that lymph system. So now we're really shutting down all the avenues the body uses to get rid of this junk. So we like to make sure that people's bile is flowing correctly. So if you're not sure, we'll have a link in the description below for our video on 10 signs of poor bile flow, and we'll also have a link for our video on 5 steps to improve bile flow so you can make sure that detox pathway is working correctly and all this filth is not accumulating and restricting the flow of that lymph system. And I'll put some links to some other studies below that talk about issues that can come about with high sugar levels, with things like type 2 diabetes and obesity that seem to restrict this flow of this lymph system. And just remember, I'm not a doctor. I'm not giving you any type of medical advice. I'm basically a professional stand-up comic turned nutrition author, because when I lost my voice for 8 years, 23 different doctors couldn't help me figure that out. And I had to dig for my own answers. And now for 20 years, I've been teaching health professionals in more than 40 countries how to help their clients fix the actual underlying causes of problems instead of just covering up the symptoms. But I'll have the links to those studies below so you can dig through that and understand the right questions to ask your doctor. Now that bonus 4th step is to manage any excess cellular debris. So for some people, their body will break down a lot more than other people, or they might be stuck in what we call a catabolic state, where the body really should be during the day, and then at night, at the cellular level, they're not moving into the anabolic rebuild and repair state. So they might be losing, muscle tissue and strength because the body is just kind of stuck in this breakdown state all the time. So if that's the case, there's going to be a lot more cellular debris, and with a lot of cellular breakdown, the body will have protein-rich fluids, and those fluids will be more thick, which can thicken up and restrict the flow of that lymph system. So I'm not going to dig too far into that in this video, but if you think that that could be a problem for you, we'll have a link in the description below for our video on understanding a catabolic imbalance. And if that's a problem for you, correcting that imbalance and allowing the body to move into that rebuild and repair state can fix a wide variety of problems. So that can be a really big deal for some folks. So I hope those steps helped, and since this poor bile flow and an inability for the body to detox seems to be one of the biggest factors for most people in this area, you can jump over right now and check out that video on 5 steps to improve bile flow. I can't wait to hear about your results.